HQ presented by Capital One. Chris Hassel joined by Tom Fornelli. For the website, Tom does the bottom 25. For us here on CBS Sports HQ, he gives us the bottom 5, and he goes a little bit outside the box. Before we get to those bottom 5 teams in college football, Tom, I want to go back to the beginning of the season when you gave us some advice on a group of 5 team. Take a look.
If they get through that, I think things set up for Houston to make a possible run to an undefeated regular season. And if that's the case, they will be in the discussion for a college football playoff berth. I think that's a little bit too high of a reach, but I still think this is the best team in the AAC, and they will get the New Year's Six berth.
Yeah, it was a little bit more of a reach than maybe you thought it was. And unfortunately, our producer, Noah, and Troy, who does a bunch of stuff for us, they went all in on Houston this season. They took the over on the win total, and it's already kaput. Tom, what's up?
That's clearly a deep fake that you guys created there in the studio to make me look bad. I mean, it's not even the same background. That was clearly not me. That was an imposter. No, it's Houston got off to a rough start this season, and for the last few weeks, they had actually been playing well. They had started to look like the team that I thought clearly was going to be one of the best group of 5 teams, but then this weekend happened, and they lost to SMU 77-63. And I did some research into this one. Since 2014, the college football playoff era, there have been 263 games between FBS opponents where one team scored at least 63 points. Those teams are 257-6, Chris. Houston is one of the 6, but more importantly, they are the first team to score 63 points and lose in a game since Washington State did it to UCLA 67-63 in 2019. And it's only the second time in the college football playoff era in which a team scored 63 points and lost, and the game didn't go to overtime. So it was a truly epic performance from the Cougars, who figured out a way to score 63 points and still lose by 2 touchdowns.
And as we saw in the highlights, they gave up a passing touchdown to a guy with a neck roll. I haven't seen that since the 80s. But they do still have a chance to win the American Conference. It's been a strange year in the American. So Houston is your number 5 worst team in the country right now. At number 4, Tommy, it's a team coming off maybe their best game of the season. What's up?
Yeah, you know, if Pat Fitzgerald had had a chance before the game against Ohio State, if he came across like a genie in a lamp and he was granted 3 wishes for the football game, 3 conditions that he would need for Northwestern to pull off the upset, he would have asked for 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, a steady driving rain, and grass up to your knees. He got all 3 of them on Saturday against Ohio State, and his team still lost 21-7. They held C.J. Stroud to 73 yards passing, his worst performance of the season as a passer by far. Stroud, a quarterback who is not known as a rusher, had to run for more yards than he threw for, and Northwestern still never threatened to win the game. They have just been that ineffective all season. They have yet to win a game on American soil this year, and I don't think they're going to.
All right, so they're the 4th worst team. Your number 3 bottom team of the week is a team that already fired their head coach, somehow bounced back after firing their head coach, blew out Rice, and then came plummeting back to reality last week. That would be Charlotte.
Yeah, they had the dead coach bounce. Like, this is a team, obviously, you're firing your coach in the middle of the season. Things probably aren't going well. But the week after, like you mentioned, they're playing Rice, a team that, you know, is a decent Conference USA team, was favored to win by multiple scores. And Charlotte beat them 56-23, which made you wonder, wow, they must have really not liked Will Healy very much, because the minute he was out the door, they came out and played their best game of the season. But then they follow it up with a 59-7 loss to Western Kentucky, which is probably one of the best teams in Conference USA, but still, what is this team? How are you scoring 56 points in an upset win the next week and then getting blown out 59-7 a week later? And this game, you know, it's 59-7. It really wasn't that close. Western Kentucky kind of took its foot off the gas in the second half. They probably could have scored 70 points themselves, just like SMU did against Houston. But they showed the 49ers a little bit of mercy. This is a team that, God, who knows what's going to happen with them this week? Maybe they'll score 100. Maybe they'll give up 100. It's hard to know.
They're at Middle Tennessee this week, and they're the only team in the country giving up more points per game than our number 2 team, the Colorado Buffaloes. a team with a gauntlet of a schedule in November, and it started last week against Oregon in a blowout loss.
Yeah, Oregon treated this thing as a scrimmage. Frankly, they got clowned in the 49-10 loss. It was quite disrespectful if you think about it. Oregon won 49-10, but it's not the final score that matters. It is the method in which Oregon beat the Buffaloes. They threw a pass to an offensive lineman for a touchdown. They handed off to a linebacker who scored a rushing touchdown. And then, if all that wasn't insulting enough, they had a running back throw a touchdown to their quarterback, Bo Nix. All of this in one game. It's like Oregon went in and said, you know, all the trick plays we worked on this spring that we haven't had a chance to use in a game yet, let's use every single one of them against Colorado because it's not going to matter. This team stinks and we are going to crush it. And at least maybe we'll get some attention and help ourselves in the college football playoff rankings. So it's a very poor performance from Colorado in a long line of bad performances from the Buffs. And like you said, they've got a murderous schedule this month. So this is a team that would really, really just like to get the season over with, bring a new coach in, and start getting ready for 2023.
Instead, they're going to lose the next 3 games by a combined 150 points probably. They got USC, Washington, and Utah to close things out mercifully at the end of this season. All right, Tom, your number one worst team in college football isn't a team at all. In fact, it's somebody who's not involved with a team, really. Who is it?
It is NC State Athletic Director and College Football Playoff Chairperson Boo Corrigan. He is the worst team in the country this week because Boo's job, as the College Football Playoff rankings come out on Tuesday night, is to stand in front of people and answer questions that he has no answer to. And the one that really stood out to me on Tuesday was he was asked why USC, a team with no top 25 wins and a loss to Utah, was ranked 4 spots ahead of a UCLA team with 2 top 25 wins, a win over the same Utah that beat USC, and whose lone loss was to number 6 Oregon. What was the difference in the two teams? Why is USC ranked so far ahead? Well, Mr. Corrigan's response was that the emotion of the game in the loss to Utah was considered, and Caleb Williams has thrown 28 touchdowns while USC is averaging 41 points per game, which is an excellent explanation for why USC would be ranked 4 spots ahead, because after all, UCLA's quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he only has 26 touchdowns, not the 28 like Caleb Williams has, and those 41 points per game that USC is scoring, UCLA is only scoring 40.8, Chris. So clearly there is nothing in line that UCLA has to be able to keep pace with USC. So that was just a tremendous non-answer from Boo Corrigan, who is filled with them every single week when it comes to trying to figure out why the College Football Playoff Selection Committee does what it does.
Tom, it's a week of big lines. I mean, you got Ohio State is favored by 40, Michigan's favored by 30. Georgia's favored by double digits on the road at Mississippi State. Sometimes when we get these weeks where we just think that, you know, everything's going to be status quo and it's just a name your score week, we end up with more upsets than maybe we think going in. If there's one game that you're looking at this week involving a top team that might have some trouble, what game would that be?
I don't think it's going to be Georgia. There is some, I think Georgia's got the toughest game of all those. I just think that matchup wise, Mississippi State's not a very good matchup for the Bulldogs, and they should cruise to that one. I would be, honestly, if I'm Tennessee, I'm a little worried. They're 3 touchdown favorites against Mizzou. They're coming off of the emotional letdown of losing that game against Georgia, and maybe they kind of get stuck looking past a Missouri team that in the last few weeks defensively has improved. Their offense still has problems, but their head coach did just get a contract extension, and maybe he's going to want to show the people who are rewarding him with that kind of faith why they're giving him that kind of faith. So I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee lets Georgia beat them twice this weekend. I don't think it'll happen, but I think it's more possible than a lot of people expect.
And if that does happen, Tennessee would be kaput in the college football playoff race. Tom Fornelli with us here on HQ just gave us his bottom 5 teams involving a person in college football, the college football playoff director. We'll see what happens this week and how the playoffs look. The chairman, Boo Corrigan, is the worst of the worst. You can hear more from Tom and many more on the Cover 3 podcast. On the latest episode, they discuss, among other things, North Carolina's playoff chances. They have not lost in ACC play, just 1 loss all season to Notre Dame.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.